I think we're at a spot right now where I very much lean from what we've seen in Dillon Gabriel, and I say that it's probably a backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think I see more characteristics. I saw more characteristics of when he was drafted in his draft profile of saying, I don't know that Dillon Gabriel really has the upside to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, my bias lies in there. I've seen what I've seen over the first 3 games. I also think there's a lot of people who have jumped to conclusions, looked at Dillon Gabriel, and just said, well, I already know what Dillon is. Like, he has already solidified himself as nothing more than a backup in the NFL. Like, it might be true. It might be the fact that ends up being what his career is, that he is nothing more than a backup. That evaluation might be right at the end of the day. I just think when we talk about 3 games, like, I can't disagree with Jimmy Haslam. I don't know how you look at any rookie quarterback, 24 years old or 22 years old, and look at me and go, yeah, I saw him play for 3 games. I know exactly what he is.
Right, and you mentioned they like 22, 23, 24, however old. Also, you could be a 7th-round pick and get 3 games. You could be a 1st-round pick, the number 1 overall pick, and through 3 games, it's just really hard to get a read on anything. However, for the Browns fans out there that are like, okay, I'm ready to turn the page, like this guy ain't it, I hate to say it, those people kind of have a point. Hate to say it, the Browns kind of gave those people ammunition because they drafted 2 of them and because people are not going to quiet down, simmer down, pipe down until they see Shedeur Sanders. Like, that is the reality of this season. That was kind of always the reality of this season, is people were always going to be peering behind their, shoulder to the next guy because Shedeur is inevitable, and Shedeur is the guy that does have the upside, is kind of the lottery ticket. And the last that we saw of him against the Rams, he certainly looked like he needed developing. The Browns are saying that he has been developing behind the scenes. So I think as Gabriel continues to stack these boring performances on top of each other, of course, it's just human nature. People are going to want to see if the next guy can do something more.
Yeah, but Nick, this is where, and I don't disagree with you that, like, you draft 2 quarterbacks, you knew this conversation was coming, knowing that one of them was Shador Sanders, but I know very well you want to see Shedeur this year. You know very well I want to see Shedeur this year. Yet both of us can sit here and both say 3 games is too small. Yeah. We have not seen enough of Dillon Gabriel to just completely write him off. And that time might not be that far away. We might be 3 weeks down the line, 4 weeks down the line, and go, okay, we've seen enough of Dillon. Like, we have a good idea on what he is. Is it ever going to be a true evaluation in this season? Probably not, right? Can I really judge any quarterback off of 6 games? I don't know, but the Browns have sped up their evaluation by having the 1st-round pick next year. You figure it out this year, or you take the risk of just having that guy left on the table and never getting to see what he is. And you're not going to just pass up on a 1st-round quarterback next year if you feel like the spot for one is good. But there's a lot of people who want to jump to that conclusion simply to see Shedeur. And it's like, guys, both things can be true. You can sit here and want to see Shedeur Sanders while understanding that Dillon hasn't played well, all under the blanket of we still haven't seen enough of Dillon Gabriel. And to give him a true opportunity, give him a chance to prove himself as a starter in the NFL, even if he fails. Like, okay, so then there's still going to be, 6 games, 8 games left on the table, 5 games, whatever it ends up being on the table for Shedeur Sanders. He'll have his chance if Dillon doesn't look good. I also just think, like, Dillon hasn't played bad enough to just rule him out. I get it. He hasn't played good enough to obviously lean the other way either.
Well, that's a big piece of where we're at right now is, like, you've got 10 games left until you reach the finish line. And I'm, like, starting to become in the camp of, like, we know what Dillon Gabriel is, right? Like, if the numbers are telling you it and your eyes are telling it, like, he's probably a backup quarterback. But I got 10 games just till I reach the finish line. Like, if I bench this kid now in favor of Shedeur, and Shedeur isn't playing as well as Gabriel is, and he's turning the ball over and he's getting sacked, well, then that's an uncomfortable situation, because then you got to turn back to the kid that actually didn't throw any interceptions and wasn't playing horribly, but also was really boring, and you got to put him back in the game. So things just get weird, and this season it feels like it's kind of lost anyway, and you're trying to just reach the finish line. So yeah, not yet. It's not time yet, even though we probably know what he is. You got to give him the opportunity to see if he could change that opinion.
This is the highest level of hypocrisy, because everybody that's calling for Shedeur right now, if you had seen Shedeur play 3 games and they looked disastrously bad, right, or even just okay, everybody would be screaming from the mountaintops, no, we cannot make our decision yet on what Shedeur Sanders is. You have to give him more time. And it all goes back to how people felt about it pre-draft. is that Shedeur had the higher ceiling, Dillon had the lower ceiling, and was the higher floor player, which is fine. It's the exact same way that I evaluated it. But it doesn't mean that once the two guys are in the buildings, you just get to write one off faster than the other.
Yeah, and I feel like right now, like the Browns are in a peculiar spot because like you can decide to keep rolling with Gabriel, who hasn't done really anything wrong, but he also hasn't elevated anything at all either. Like, you could just take him out right now. Like, say he puts together a performance like what he's done against the Patriots today, where he takes care of the ball, but it's really boring. Everything's right around the line of scrimmage. They run the ball. They're not able to move it a ton. They don't score a lot of points, but he's able to come out of it unscathed. They could make the decision going into the bye week with a full week of prep. Like, let's just make the switch to Shedeur Sanders here. We know what we've got in Dillon Gabriel. We know that he's really smart. We know what he's capable of doing. Good backup quarterback. Let's see if we could cash this lottery ticket. Or you can do the Brownsian thing and you can try to expect and try to ask more out of Dillon Gabriel and let the meltdown happen and then move to Shedeur. I feel like that is probably the unhealthier of the two options, because if the meltdown happens and he throws a bunch of picks, then it's probably a situation where you never want to go back to Dillon this year. Whereas like if something were to happen to Shedeur, if he's just not ready, like I can't shake as excited as I am, Jake, really, of seeing the prospect of Shedeur and all the hype, you know, on the field and off of it, and the 2 touchdowns against Carolina are still probably the best 2 touchdowns that I've seen in a Browns uniform this year. I still can't ignore what happened in that Rams game. And like, if he gets into regular season action and he's getting sacked more than he's on his feet, then what do you do? What do you do? Where do you go? And this offensive line has not been better than what it was against the Rams. Like, it arguably has gotten worse. So they're in a tough spot. And I'm glad I'm not the one making the decision of like when to make the switch and how far you let this thing go. Because I don't know that Gabriel is the type of quarterback that will ever really let like a true meltdown happen.
Yeah, I think that's the weird part, because I'm not rooting for the meltdown, but I'm rooting for the opportunity for the meltdown to come. And everybody's going to overreact to it, but there should be a time, and by the way, it might just be this week, across all the conversations.
We could be signing up for it like in a couple hours here.
I mean, I think we should be. Like, I had multiple conversations this week. Like, we talked to Coach Riz. I talked to him every Friday. I talked to Christopher Price, who's been covering the Patriots for 2+ decades for the Boston Globe. And everybody has been highlighting the fact that, hey, if there's a spot to attack this defense, one of the easiest places to look is that the safeties get burnt sometimes. Like, they're a group that you can pick on. So, like, that would tell you got to throw the ball over the top. And, like, if Dillon can't do it, okay, guys, that's kind of what we're looking for.
Right.
Right? Like, you've already kind of answered the question to me. Can you be a backup quarterback in the NFL? I think Dillon Gabriel can be. Right? I think he's shown, if he's the type of quarterback that has a 10-year career backing up, actual high-level talent, he'd be fine. And he would fill that role just perfectly well. I also think, like, we're not looking to figure out if you can be a backup quarterback and if you can win football games on some level. Sure, we're trying to win, but I'm trying to figure out if I have a franchise quarterback.
Right.
That's going to require you to throw the ball. I would think Dillon would like to answer that question, because right now I tell you it's too small of a sample size. Even if Dillon Gabriel, wins a couple of games, let's say they give him another 3 to work things out. Even if you went through and let's say you at least beat the Jets and maybe stole one of the other 2 games on either side of the Jets, I still don't know that I'm sitting there dying to have Dillon Gabriel still in the game.
Right.
Like, winning might not be enough to just convince me, because I'm not looking to see if I have a quarterback that can win with a incredible defense behind him, and then, hey, maybe if he has more weapons, the offense looks a little better. I'm looking for a franchise-level talent.
Right.
So I would imagine Dillon wants to show me, hey, I can have that franchise-level talent. And if you fail to show me that, so be it. Then you're a backup quarterback. You'll probably draft a guy next year. We'll see Shedeur play, and we'll see what Shedeur has. You'll go down one of those 2 roads, and it's perfectly fine. Like, maybe Dillon starts next year. Maybe he has another opportunity to prove things. If they want to give a rookie quarterback a little bit of time to develop or something along those lines, or Shedeur more time, who knows? But, like, I need to see you try to be that quarterback. So if it ends in a meltdown, we can call it Brownsy, and I also think it's the right way to evaluate a guy.
Probably. Like, I'm thinking about it like this, too. Like, Bo Nix last year was like the story of the league because nobody really thought that he was going to be any good, but he was a first-round pick, and it seemed like Sean Payton was maybe the only person on planet Earth that thought that he was worth the first-round pick. And throughout the first couple of games, like, it was boring, it was uninspiring. And when you say like franchise-level quarterback, to me, that means somebody that can elevate the rest of the offense, somebody that could make the offensive line look better, somebody that could make his receivers look better. Bo Nix wasn't doing that the same way that today Dillon Gabriel hasn't done any of that. But later in the season, Sean Payton started to put more on his plate, and they started to stretch the field a little bit, and you saw him have those games late in the season where it was like, wow, this guy can be a guy that can elevate the receivers on his roster and the offensive line, and even when the defense doesn't have a great day, like, he's still able to keep the Broncos in it. Like, that's what I'm still looking to see if Dillon Gabriel has in him. And you're right, you're just not going to get that through 3 games. We're comparing a first-round pick to a third-round pick, and again, nobody really thought Dillon Gabriel was even worthy of being a third-round pick other than the Browns. So, like, it is going to take some time for them to build on these performances, but you've got to do it because you drafted 2 quarterbacks, you've got 2 first rounds next year, and you are still on this search for your franchise guy. And they said they're in no rush. I get that. But you kind of used your mulligan in my eyes this past draft. Like when you decided to trade out of that number 2 overall pick, you didn't want Travis Hunter. Obviously, when Cam Ward went 1, there was not a quarterback that you felt comfortable taking in the top 5, in the top 10, whatever the case may be. All right, I could subscribe to all of that. But that was the mulligan you got to use last year. Like, you look ahead to this year and you start watching some of these college football games on Saturday, and all right, maybe you could see a couple guys with Ty Simpson and Lenora Sellers having their shootout. And Fernando Mendoza seems like he could be inching towards locking up that Heisman. So you're starting to see some things shake out on Saturday. You're starting to see the Browns and their scouts attending some of these games on Saturday. So that means your Sunday's got to start getting a little bit more interesting in terms of what you're asking these pups to do, because you're not able to get a good read on them if you don't. Like, I agree with you. Like, if Dillon Gabriel just remains checked out Charlie, how are you ever going to find out if the kid could play or not?
Yeah, and I mean, listen, like, check down Charlie makes sense. I feel like this is you bring up Bo Nix. I feel like this is the natural progression of especially the type of quarterback we're talking about. Like I hate to use the frame game manager because I don't mean it with a negative connotation. Like, there's a very positive side of things. Tom Brady was a game manager in a lot of ways. Like, but it is a more game manager style of quarterback. The natural progression would be that you start those guys off short, getting them easy reads, comfortable in trying to allow, a strong defense on the other side to work. And then you put more on their plate. So, like, 3 games, I don't know that you've asked Dillon Gabriel to really try to extend the ball, to try to be better. Like, it's a battle of finding out right now. Is it a message from Kevin Stefanski to be like, hey, Dillon, just take the easy throwdown, right? Like, we're running levels concepts. It's okay if you're hitting the lower level every single time.
Right.
Isn't the idea that if you're a Dillon Gabriel fan, the best scenario for him is that he becomes Brock Purdy? Yes, like, it was a similar situation where this is a mid to late round pick who probably doesn't have all the tools yet in they had a better offense, but while the offense for the Browns gets better and they can add more weapons through the draft or through trades, until then he can be the game manager, but then he can progress into a top 15 quarterback.
Here's my fear on that, and I wonder if it's their fear, is like, you go back and you watch some of the film and the tape, and like, I'm not going to be, pretend to be some sort of like tape grinder or a guy like Lance that understands it at the highest level, but like, you see that there's times where guys are wide open and he is just not seeing them. And like, if I could see that live during the broadcast as the game is unfolding, that he's got guys streaking up the field and he's just not even looking their direction for a touchdown, I wonder if the Browns were thinking, all right, this might be something this kid just doesn't have in his arsenal, and maybe we just need those level concepts to just be the shortest level possible, and maybe he never becomes Brock Purdy because he can't even hit those wide open layups that can break for long touchdowns if you let him. And I know he had a comment this week that some people were running with, like, yeah, explosive plays could be shots down the field, or they could also be short passes that break for long gains. And it's like, yeah, but you got to kind of give the guys the football and space to do that. And today you kind of haven't. Like, you've thrown a lot of hospital balls, Dillon. So we'll see what today brings. But I wonder if, like, he's kind of playing himself out of even being Brock Purdy because he's not hitting those layups when they're there.
I think I'd be willing to bet if you went back and watched the early Brock Purdy tape, it'd probably look in a lot of ways similar where you have open guys down the field and Brock missed them. The difference was, like, Kyle Shanahan and Kevin's offense are so similar. But you look at the 49ers offense when Brock comes in, and it's like, okay, he was working with guys like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. Like, you're talking about the explosive of explosive players. There's no doubt in my mind that if you had that offensive firepower around him, the skill position guys, Dillon would look way better right now. Because it does become, I get the ball to better playmakers. Those playmakers make plays. Like, in a lot of ways, I agree with what Dillon said. It can be the short passes that turn into explosive plays, but you have to have the guys to set it up. You have to have the guys to execute those plays. And right now, the Browns don't have them. So Dillon can't look good doing that. And also, I would have never paid Brock Purdy like $55 million a year. Like, that's just me, right? Like, that's not franchise-level quarterback to me. If you want to ink him to a long-term deal, but it's a lot cheaper than franchise quarterbacks, fine. But you don't pay a guy like that. Like, I need you to extend down the field. I need you to look like you can hit all the throws. You don't have to be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but you got to be a hell of a lot better than you've been right now. You eventually have to start hitting those open throws.